Now, I don't happen to be a senior. I'm much younger than you. I'm a much younger man than you. Look at you old guys. Wouldn't you like to be my age? It's young, vital, vibrant. No, I'm much, much younger than the people in this room, but I feel I can relate to you anyway. See, now the fake news will go tonight, and they'll say, he's claiming to be younger than the people.
Hi again, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in New York. We're not even sure what to do with that anymore, so we're just going to show it to you. You decide. But it is the age-old question with Donald Trump. Is he a liar, or does he really not remember what he said and did 30 seconds ago? It's just the latest example and the latest episode of alienating self-aggrandizement from Donald Trump, who, as his poll numbers continue to plunge, as Americans grow increasingly exasperated with rising costs and a war that hasn't been explained to them with Iran, Trump has been doubling and tripling down on burnishing his own image in increasingly weird ways. Case in point, on Friday, after he called a crowd of MAGA voters old, that's what we just showed you, and called himself, quote, young, vital, and vibrant, he unleashed a truly bizarre string of posts on social media on his own platform, Truth Social. Weird even for him. He posted 11 times. He started at 11:03 p.m. and 11:45 p.m. And the posts include an AI-generated image of J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of the Interior. You don't hear a lot about him, but he made this picture. His name's Doug Burgum. An unidentifiable woman, we're not even going to guess who that's supposed to be, and himself with abs that I'm not sure he ever had. All of them are swimming in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Something we don't recommend to any of our viewers. A minute later, he posts a picture of Melania Trump smiling weirdly at his post-White House Correspondents' Dinner press conference, the one where he said he needed his $400 million ballroom for security purposes. He posted a picture of himself holding a lot of Uno cards with the caption, quote, I have all the cards, which if you've ever played Uno with your kids knows that you're losing Uno. So it's not clear that he's holding those cards because he played a lot of Uno with any of his children. We'll let Don Jr. and Eric answer that. A picture of himself in gold was also posted by Trump. A picture of dirty water in the reflecting pool, and then the blue water on the other side, like a little side-by-side, and a caption that read, quote, Hussein Obama 2012, and quote, Trump coming soon. Quote, this is what our country was before and after Trump. Donald Trump finally posted a nearly identical picture twice of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool with the caption, switching to a different font, American flag blue, a seeming reference to his decision to paint the bottom of the reflecting pool blue at a cost of $2 million to the American taxpayer at a time when only 22% of Americans feel good about the economy. So anyone looking for a hint as to why Donald Trump is trumpeting his highly unpopular vanity projects while spiraling online on social media needs to look no further than this latest polling in the Washington Post that we've been covering today. It finds his disapproval rating reaching a record high for the Washington Post poll, 62%, driven by his voters, Republican-leaning independents who have grown fed up with his presidency. As historian Heather Cox Richardson puts it, quote, as Trump's popularity has sunk to new lows, he has renewed his efforts to remake Washington, D.C. into a monument to himself, almost as if he is trying to anticipate history by making future Americans think that he must have been great because of all the tributes to him in the Capitol. Donald Trump's increasingly erratic public missives largely being spun as legacy, making himself a...
The U.S. and Iran trading shots in the Gulf, threatening an already fragile ceasefire. Today, the U.S. military says it blew up 6 Iranian small boats in the Strait of Hormuz after Iran launched, quote, multiple cruise missiles, drones, and small boats at U.S. Navy ships and commercial vessels. The exchange of fire happening just hours after President Trump announced that the U.S. will begin helping guide stranded ships out of the strait. Meantime, the UAE is accusing Iran of renewed missile and drone attacks, the first since early April, including a drone strike on an Emirati oil port causing a large fire and injuring 3 people there, according to officials. Let's go to CNN's Kristen Holmes at the White House right now. So, Kristen, what is the administration saying as tensions with Iran appear to be escalating?
It's not just the tensions that are escalating, Boris. We're also hearing it in President Trump's rhetoric. He just did a brief phone interview with Fox in which he said essentially that if the Iranians target U.S. ships in the area, that they will be, quote, blown off the face of the earth. Now, during this interview, he also said that the Iranians were more malleable now, that he did believe that there could be some kind of negotiation that led to a deal. But I've got to tell you, we are in a very different place now than we were at the end of last week. I was hearing from U.S. officials at the end of last week, senior administration officials, who were saying that they felt really good about the direction that this was going in. Instead, now we're starting to see this really seem to devolve. And President Trump posted on social media about what we were seeing in the Strait, saying Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations in respect to the ship movement. And he also noted it was a South Korean cargo ship. Then he essentially says that maybe South Korea should join them on this mission, talking about the war in Iran. And then he goes on to talk about the fast boats, which we've heard about, and then that tomorrow there's going to be another one of these press briefings by the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane. But where we are right now, talking to these officials, is it does not seem as though they are in a place where they feel that they can get to some kind of agreement here, which is very different again than what we heard at the end of last week.
Kristen Holmes, live force at the White House. Thank you so much. Let's turn to CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, what are you learning as the U.S. and Iran are trading strikes now?
Yeah, Boris, our U.S. Central Command Chief, Admiral Bradley Cooper, he held a call with reporters earlier today, and he kind of outlined how the U.S. military is going about trying to guide these commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz, essentially via a huge U.S. military presence that involves guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, unmanned platforms, so things like Reaper drones, and 15,000 service members who are now staying there to respond, essentially, if Iran does attack any of these ships trying to pass through the strait. And that is exactly what happened this morning. According to Admiral Cooper, the Iranians began launching drones, cruise missiles, and small boats at some of these ships, including U.S. Navy ships. And the U.S. military then responded by blowing up about 6 of these small Iranian boats using Apache and Seahawk helicopters. Now, it's important to note here that Admiral Cooper did not say whether or not this means that the ceasefire is over, given that the Iranians and the Americans are now trading shots, essentially, in that strait. He would only say that the U.S. is going to continue to act defensively to try to protect these ships, as well as, of course, its own assets. And one other thing is that he really emphasized that there are no escorts going on right now of these commercial vessels in this area by the U.S. military. Instead, they say that this kind of overarching defensive package that they have built up in that area is creating deterrence. Now, the Iranians, they might have a different perception of that because, of course, they continue to try to take shots at these ships in the waterway. But the U.S. military is saying, look, it's better for us to have this big overall presence here rather than escort each ship one by one through the strait, which could actually leave them more vulnerable in the end, Boris.
The conflict overspilling from the tensions in the Strait of Hormuz back onto land, back to where it was before the ceasefire went into place almost a month ago, as well as those missiles from Iran hitting the UAE, well, 3 intercepted, as you say, 1 hitting that port of Fujairah. Also in Oman, a tiny seaside hamlet in the peninsula that sticks up into the Strait of Hormuz, that was hit, 2 people injured in a civilian residence there as well.
There is a particular kind of political unrevealing that doesn't announce itself with a single dramatic moment. It accumulates, post by post, rally by rally, late night, truth social media spiral by late night, truth social spiral, until one day you look up and realize the thing you are watching isn't a presidency constructing itself with any recognizable relationship to governing. It's a man in an increasingly desperate argument with his own declining relevance. Friday was instructive. Trump called a room full of his own supporters old, called himself young, vibrant, then apparently unsatisfied with that, went home and spent 42 minutes between 11 p.m. and midnight posting 11 times on Truth Social AI-generated images of himself with abs that strain credibility. Cabinet members swimming in the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, a photo of himself holding a fistful of Uno cards captioned, "I have all the cards." If you have spent any time around a kitchen table with children, you know that holding a lot of Uno cards meaning you are losing badly. The metaphor writes itself, and apparently no one in his orbit had the nerve to point that out before he hit pause. The reflecting pool fixation is worth dwelling on for a second. Trump spent $2 million of public money painting the bottom of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool blue. At a moment when 62% of America disapprove of his presidency, when only 2% report feeling good about the economy, when an unapologetic war is grinding into its 65th day with no coherent end state, $2 million blue paint side by side for the caption Hussein Obama 2012 and Trump coming soon. This is the priority structure of the administration right now. Not the munitions inventory problem, not the families of the 13 Americans killed in Iran, the reflecting pool. Heather Cox Richardson framing on this is sharp and worth sitting with. Trump is trying to anticipate history by building monuments to himself before history renders its verdict. It is the move of someone who already senses what that verdict is going to be and is trying to get ahead of it architecturally. If you can't win the argument, maybe you can win the skyline. It is not a new instinct among anarchic adjacent leaders, but is rarely being executed with quite this level of transparent anxiety. Adam Kinziger's presence in this conversation matters of reasons beyond his biography, though the biography is relevant. Here is a man who served in the Air Force and the Air National Guard, sat on the January 6th committee, watched the evidence accumulate in real time, made the case publicly, and paid the full political price for it. Primary challenges, death threats, and the end of his career in the Republican Party as it currently exists. He is not speaking from a position of comfort and safely. He is speaking from the other side of a decision that cost him something real. His point about the psychology of humiliation is the most analytically valuable thing in this segment and is not getting enough attention. The reason Trump forgives people like J.D. Vance, who once called him America's Hitler, which is not a minor thing to have on the record, isn't magnanimity, it is leverage. The more engages the prior betrayal, the more completely the person has to subordinate themselves to earn their way back in, and the more they owe the leader for the forgiveness. It is a depth structure. The humiliation is the collateral. You can't turn on someone who has already absorbed your damning characterization of them and decide to overlook it. You are in too deep. You call dynamics here aren't complicated, but they are genuinely worth understanding. They explain why the people around Trump have become progressively less capable of functioning as any kind of internal checks.